Hi, I'm your host, Otis Smith of Interruptions Podcast. We got a treat for you guys coming up next. We got a guy that is part of Major League Baseball, one of the biggest plays in baseball history, if not baseball history, at least in Atlanta Braves history. We're talking no other than the great Sid Bream. Sid, as you guys remember, helped us get to that first Braves World Series. So please go to my YouTube channel, Otis A. Smith, the number 3. Please subscribe and please send me your comments and let me know who else you would like for me to interview. Coming up next is a Braves legend, Mr. Sid Bream. Welcome to another edition of Interruptions. I'm your host, Otis Smith. Today, I got another treat from me. If you're from the Atlanta like I am, if you're an Atlanta Braves fan, if you're from the ATL, love all things Atlanta, I got one of our brightest heroes that ever graced the state of Georgia. And I'm talking to this man here is part of baseball history. If not just Major League history, at least Atlanta Braves history, Mr. Sid Bream. How you doing, sir?
Otis, it is such a pleasure to be on with you, buddy. Thank you so much for wanting to do an interview with me.
Oh man, you someone I always wanted to talk to, and you know what? You know what's so crazy? To have you on the show, one of the heroes of Atlanta sports, and then to my friend of mine called me today to let me know the passing of Vince Dooley, and it was
Uh,
yeah, and it was I was like, oh wow, I was because
uh,
I'm 51, so he won that first national championship, and then at least God blessed him to see them win
mm,
another one, you know,
absolutely.
before
I
his
mean,
passing.
Otis, the Bible says, we come and we go, bud. We come and we go, and it's heartbreaking to see people leave this earth, but if they're in the right place, going to the right place, hey, they're in a, they would never ever want to come back down here to be with us again.
Well, you know that's the old preacher joke, right? Everybody want to go to heaven, but don't nobody want to leave here. So
Yep,
it's
exactly.
like it's like you gotta kind of leave here to get there.
That is correct. That is a good point.
You gotta go. My first question for you is when did you know you had a chance to play Major League Baseball? When did that hit you to say, hey, this might, be a reality?
I really and truly, Otis, I didn't start even thinking professionally until my senior year of high school,
Okay.
and that's when a scout, professional scout, came up to me and said, "You have a chance to be drafted." And so that's probably in the middle of my senior year season, senior high school. That I, before that, didn't even have a clue, didn't even think about it. Just loved the game, loved playing the game, and but whenever that took place, that's when it started to all kick into gear a little bit.
And that's so crazy. And I was you also the first uh major leaguer, former major leaguer I've had on the show. And I grew up playing at Gresham Park here in Atlanta, Georgia, in Decatur. And it's so funny is watch this. I grew up one of the teams were the A's. Started out with the A's. And then we played in a World Series. Then one year I took a break off right from the summer to go spend time with my grandparents. I came back and then I got drafted by the Pirates, and
Oh,
we wore the same exact color, the black and gold. And what was so crazy about that, Sid, is the day we broke out those colors in the daytime, we wore the old colors. We had like maroon and white. And when I tell you,
softball.
yeah, yeah. But watch this. When I tell you, we had a night game and we broke out that black and gold. Man, I mean the same way you guys dress, the same way that it was the exact our
Uh,
colors, man. And we were
so
we
what, Otis? What year did you get drafted by the Pirates?
no, 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 no. I was just talking about when I played park ball. I wish I did get
Oh,
you.
just park ball. Okay.
Hey. I wish I did. And here's the crazy part. Now, my family, everybody thought I would play professional baseball. I'm not gonna lie. Now, if it football was my passion, love basketball, but baseball was the game for me.
Mhm.
I played it since I was 5, and I did something that you didn't do, which is I got undisciplined in the sport.
Mm.
Got in high school, started chasing girls, and just got undisciplined. But I even had a friend of mine, Ronald Smith, end up playing minor league baseball,
Uh,
and everyone always asked, "Man, where did you?" Because I transferred high school. Man, where did you go? Man, you know what? One of those what if? And
yeah.
it's one of those things I always tell kids today is you got to stay, no matter the sport or no matter what you want to do in life, you have to stay disciplined in what you're
That's
trying to do, because if not, it's easy for something to slip through your fingers. But
and today, Otis, I mean, there's
mhm,
so many things that can get a kid distracted. I mean,
yeah,
from his sport. I mean, and that's the sad part about when we were growing up.
hmm,
You know, you had football, basketball, baseball in your schools.
right,
I mean, with some soccer, but today and track. But today, these guys got everything. I mean, they got their computers, they got their
yes.
iPhones. I mean, they have their you know lacrosse. They have all these other different sports that they could be playing. There's so many decisions for these kids today. To get it distracted as you're talking about. But I agree with you wholeheartedly. I mean, if you want to keep pursuing, you gotta stay on track.
Did you play multiple sports growing up?
I played. I started in seventh grade playing. I was quarterback on a football team
Okay.
and started well, but then I got meningitis between seventh and eighth grade, and
Mm.
the doctor said I wasn't allowed to play in eighth grade, so I didn't play eighth grade. I didn't play ninth grade, and then I didn't go out for the 10th grade. But then their quarterback was so bad that they asked me to come out, and so I played 10th grade, but then between 10th grade and 11th grade, a
Okay.
guy ran me over at first base and messed up my knee. So my left knee. And
Hmm.
so I didn't play 11th and I didn't play 12th. But basketball, actually, Otis, I mean, I had more offers out of high school for basketball in college than I did baseball.
Wow.
Um,
Okay.
because, I could jump, I could dribble. I was a point guard, a 6'4" point guard, and pretty quick feet, long arms, so I could get in passing lanes and but I love the game of baseball, and that's why I continue to pursue it.
Isn't it funny though when you like I'm 6'1", so isn't it funny though you 6'1", 6'4", you can play baseball or football and you're a giant, you're tall.
Yeah,
Basketball, oh man, you just a guard, man. You just
yeah, yeah. 6 foot. I mean, but even at that, 6'4" back then as a point guard was a pretty good sized
yes,
point guard.
pretty good
Today, a six
size.
foot
Yeah,
four point guard, I mean, is good grief. I mean, it's still relatively small. I mean, these guys like Magic Johnsons and stuff, 6'9" point guards. I mean,
man, yeah, it's
so
unicorn. Let me ask you a question. I always wanted to know, far as what kind of mindset do you have to play in the major leagues? Because I'm even to this day, I sit back, I'm like, why are we playing 162 games? That's the first like, why are we playing so many games? And you have, each sport has its own challenges, but what does the mindset have to be like for a major leaguer?
well, it has to be the biggest thing that you have to
Hmm.
have, Otis, is you
Hmm.
have to have a mindset of when you mess up. First of all, if you mess up hitting, you can't let that mindset take it out onto the field.
Okay.
I mean, and vice versa. I mean, if you make an error in the field, you can't bring it in, and you have to forget from one at bat to the other at bat. I mean, if you strike out, you got to forget about this, the strikeout before,
Mm-hmm.
and get up there and try to make some adjustments and get
Okay.
ready for the next bat, and then it goes from that point to the next day. I mean, if you have a bad day, you got to try to forget about the day before, and
Okay.
go out there the next day. So I mean, it's a constant. Baseball is a game of constant adjustments.
Right.
I mean, and if you don't adjust on a bat to bat, pitch to pitch, inning to inning type of a situation, you're not going to do well in the game of baseball.
I also, from playing the game, I always said too, out of all the three major sports, right, that baseball was the game that the most you had to think it through, because you have to know, like say if you're in the outfield, like I played the outfield, so you have to know where to go with the ball based on knowing how many outs there are, who's
Absolutely.
who's on base and what bases are they are. Is it person third, person second? If we just got a man on third or man just on first, like you cannot get out there and just be dumbfounded. You have to know, even in the infield, you have to know there's a man on first and there's no outs, I mean a man on third and there's no outs, and a guy hits it to me and I'm playing say third base. Not only I got to still check and hold and throw it to you at first, but then you have to be ready at first to get it out your hand to go to home plate if that runner decides he's going.
Yeah. I mean, great points, Otis. I mean, it is a pitch by pitch once again. I mean, every between every pitch as a defensive person,
Mm-hmm.
you're sitting there thinking to yourself, okay, if the ball's hit to me to my right, where am I going to throw the ball? Ball's hit to my left, where am I going to go with the ball? I mean, if the ball's right at me, what am I going to do? I mean, all those things go through your head. But as a hitter, you're up there sitting there thinking, okay, this pitcher, he threw me a fastball outside. What's he
Mm-hmm.
going to do this time? Is he going to come inside? Is he going to go outside? And you have to have a resolve there, because I mean, I can't go up there and just say, okay, I'm going to look on the outside. I'm just going to look all over the plate, because you're not going to do well. I mean, you have to pick a half of a plate and decide this is
Oh
what's
wow.
going to happen,
Okay.
and then go from there. And I'll also say, as far as
Okay.
fans are concerned,
Mm-hmm.
the fans that get into the game and think the way you're thinking,
Mm-hmm.
they're the ones that appreciate it and enjoy the game more so than somebody that just sit there and watches the pitcher pitch and watches the hitter hit. I mean, when that fan gets into a game and starts to think about, well, why in the world did the shortstop move over to there, and why is the outfielder moving in that position, but the shortstop on the other side of second base, and
Mm-hmm.
but this, when you start thinking about that, and then you look up at the board and they show, okay, he threw a fastball this time, slider. Why did he do all that? That's the individual that's going to enjoy the game of baseball.
Yeah, this is the different nuances of the game that
Absolutely.
that you learn, and then you still have to, like you said, you still got to make a play. Now, once the ball is in play, you got to make a play. Like you gotta do your job. Whether, or like you said, when you at bat and the pitch that you're expecting is coming, once again,
Mm-hmm.
it's still what you got to make a play. You still got to
But
make.
my coach from college,
Uh
I
huh.
mean, he played in the major leagues many years,
Okay.
but he said baseball is the toughest game to play, because he said a basketball you can put two basketballs inside the basket. How difficult is it to shoot a basketball when you can put two of them in at the same time? He said
Mm.
football, I mean, you're running down the field. I mean, you got to catch the ball and so on and so forth. But to hit a round ball with a round bat, hit it square, with it coming in at 95 and then coming in at 72 or 85. I mean, that is the toughest sport. The only one that I would say probably a little bit, just as difficult, if not more,
Okay. Uh huh.
is hockey. I mean, because those guys had to skate, they had to put the keep the puck on their stick, be
Right.
able to shoot it in different places. I mean, they are tremendous athletes. I mean, watching. Not that all the other ones aren't as
I know
well.
what you mean. I
But
know what you
I'm
mean.
I'm not undermining them. It's just that hockey players are incredible as far as their hand-eye coordination, skating, and being able to do everything that they need to do in order to put the puck in the back of the net.
And people don't understand. And like I said, I never played Major League Baseball, but for you playing in the majors, people don't understand what you mean. Like when that ball is coming 90 something miles, and people don't understand it's not just coming 90, it's moving. Like like you take a Dwight Gooden where
Yeah,
he's throwing 90, it starts low, but then it rises up into your chest. It's like it's not just a
yeah,
straight 90. The ball has movement. Or you have somebody like Randy Johnson who's so
yeah.
tall that when he throws, he didn't step halfway to the plate before he even released the ball.
Let, Otis, let me tell you, my first time up against Randy Johnson, hit a double to right center field.
Okay.
Second time up against him, he threw a ball that went right past my esophagus, my throat. I was so scared the rest of the at bat. I never swung the bat. He took me to a 3-2 count, and he struck me out on a 3-2 count. And as he's walking off the field, he looks at me and says, "Swing the bat, me." And I looked at him, and I said, "Man, I'm so scared. There was no way I was going to be able to swing the bat. My life flashed in front of me whenever that ball went that close to my neck."
You probably was thinking, see, if I get another base hit on him, there's no telling what's gonna happen at the third bat. I get it. I get it. For playing in the Major League Baseball, what would you say is one of the challenges of playing in the league?
Just being consistent.
Okay.
I think being consistent. I mean, as you stated, I mean, 162 game season. You're gonna have your ups. You're gonna have your downs, and the thing that you want to try to have happen is have small ups, small downs, and just stay consistent throughout the course of the year. And knowing it's a tough game. I mean, you're not already dealing with the pitching and the great fielding and so on and so forth, but you're also dealing with the papers, the journalists that one day will write in the papers, you got to sign this guy to a multi-year contract, and the next day he's saying, "Man, he should be out of baseball." I mean, and you're hearing the boos, you're hearing all the other stuff,
Okay.
and not trying to get too high, not trying to get too low when you're going good and bad, and just staying consistent is probably one of the biggest things.
That's the main thing I think with the press. Why I decided to start my own podcast and stuff like that was because the thing that I can't understand is a lot of them have not even played sports. Just like
Yeah.
I forget baseball, football, but just you didn't play sports at all. Maybe you was head of the chess club or something. But what I can't understand is how, if life is like that, why wouldn't you think a sport would be like that? Like you, everything is temporary. You, like you said, you have your good days, you have your normal days, you have your bad days, you have your days that it just seem like everything's against you, right? So if life is like that, I don't understand why these writers don't understand that the sport is like that, because it's humans playing the sport.
Yep.
So they're not going to be perfect either, and
Yep.
you're saying, okay, well, Sid Bream, he's good, he's this, he's that, and then just because like you said, 162 game, he's in a bad stretch. Now you act like Sid can't play,
Yep.
and like I'm
Uh,
always like, how do you call a guy garbage? But not you, but I'm just an athlete.
no,
Period.
I understand. I
How do you
listen.
how do you call a guy garbage, right? And he's in the 1 percentile
Yeah.
in a sport.
No, Otis. I mean, you make such a great point, and I appreciate you making the point because you sit there and I listen to different stations from time to time when they're
Mhm.
talking sports, and I say the same thing. You're going to sit there and criticize this guy, and you've never ever been anywhere close to the competition that this guy's been at, and you're going to sit there and act like you've been perfect doing what you've been doing. I mean, it blows me away, and it bothers me to no end that these guys think that they're so capable of doing what these that 1% of individuals are doing, and they criticize them like they were the best thing since sliced bread.
And yeah, and it's and they don't understand really what the fan base wants is to educate them on the sport, on the game. Yes, you can have an opinion. I could say, well, Sid's got to pick it up. He's had a couple of bad games. He's got to pick it up. The Braves or the Pirates need him. But to sit and say, okay, well, what they need to do, they need to just get rid of Sid. Like,
Yeah,
okay, so what you're telling me is you've achieved the same level of success in your area that Sid has achieved in his area. Now, if you haven't done that, then you need to stop talking about Sid. You know what I mean? Like, you could be a broadcaster, but if you're not at the top echelon, in your broadcasting to be considered one of the best broadcasters of all time, but you're just a
yeah.
local
And
broadcaster.
and Otis, you think about it. Those
Mhm,
individuals that you're talking about, the great broadcasters of the
mhm,
game,
mhm.
you never hear them. You know, they might say what you're saying, man. He's had a couple tough games,
Right.
but they never belittle the guy to the place where
No.
he should be here. Why? How in the world did he ever get to put a uniform on? I mean, they never ever belittle a guy to that point, and the other individuals that bothers me is the guy that played the game, but he speaks on the radio or he speaks on television like he never ever made a mistake in his
Oh
life.
yeah, yeah.
I mean, and that guy bothers me as well because I mean he still had errors, he still struck out, and yeah, he might have had a 300 average or something, but still, I mean, you're still seven. You didn't get a hit in 7 of those 10 at bats. So
Correct. Yeah.
and those are the other guys that kind of bother me.
Yeah. Same here. Same here. Talk to me about playing with this group here in Atlanta. You
Mm.
guys were a special group. It seemed like you guys were a family. What was that like? I mean, it was yourself, Terry, Dion was there. I mean, Otis, yourself, David Justice. I mean, man, you were playing with some legendary players, but not only that, you would also, when you came over, you was also that veteran leader
Yeah.
also that we were looking for. What was that like for you?
Well, I mean, you are so correct, Otis. We had such an amazing cast over in Atlanta whenever I came. And again, I always love to give credit to John Sherholt. First of all, to Ted Turner because he gave John Sherholtz the reins to do whatever he needed to do.
Okay.
But John Sherholtz, I mean, he could have gone out and got terrible English, but he could have got out and brought guys in that hit 40 home runs,
Hmm.
100 some RBIs, but they were negative in the clubhouse. But he went out and got people that he knew that were going to shore up the clubhouse. He knew he was going to shore up, first base, third base with Terry Pendleton and Rafael Belliard, Charlie Lebrand, and so I give John Sherholtz a tremendous amount of credit for doing that, and I also give Bobby Cox a lot of credit because
Yeah.
a lot of managers they have to micromanage. They won't let their players have their own team meetings without management there and so on and so forth. Bobby gave us that freedom. I
Okay.
mean, and Terry and myself, I mean, we went to work in spring training, trying to recognize what was taking place, and we had our team meetings, and we had some pretty difficult team meetings at times, but
Hmm.
you have to go through some struggles in order to start improving to go up the mountaintop, and I think that really started to occur obviously in 1991 when the team just started to say, hey, we know we can win these ball games, and they started to go out there and do it. And that to me was such a great year, 1991, and love playing. That was probably my most favorite year of baseball. Watching a team, learn how to play the game,
Hmm.
go between the lines, start to winning in the last day of the year, and then, but at the same time, watch a city start to adopt us and
Oh
start to
man.
the game and start to start to do their cheers. I mean, it was a phenomenal, phenomenal season.
I saw an interview you did, and when you said it, I said Sid Bream was in Atlanta. Like people don't understand what you said in the interview. You talked about like kind of like what you said now about adopting Atlanta, but what this is what you said, and that's when I knew. I said yes, he was in Atlanta. He knows that you said Atlanta was starving for something. They were
Oh yeah.
looking for a champion. And I keep telling people that all the time. I say, you don't understand. Atlanta is one of those places when they get their champions, whether and we were, oh man, the city was from the Braves to the Georgia Bulldogs. It was, we were in heaven,
Absolutely.
and I still feel like your team, that 91 team, it seems like every team after last year's team, the year before when they did, when they fell
Yep.
just short of it, it seems like it's like that 91 team. It's like it's coming in, you're not expecting much, from the Braves, and then you look up, and you're like, wait a minute, they got a shot after, and it seemed like it's since that 91 team. It seems like all the other Braves team that threatens to win a championship or wins it plays the same way that particular team did.
I'm glad that we set the tone for this city. I'm glad. That we started a winning heritage in Atlanta. Every year they're expecting the Atlanta Braves to go out there and compete and to win. And to think back that it all really literally started back in 1991 because of Ted Turner, John Sherholtz, Bobby Cox, and then all the great players as you mentioned. I mean, the David
Yeah.
Justice, John Holtz, Tommy Glavine, Steve Avery, Otis Nixon, Deion Sanders. I mean, all of them. We got it started, it was a tremendous time for me, and I still am able to remember it quite well, even though it's been 31 years later.
What was the thing I loved about that? Hey, my man. Hey,
Hey, can you say hi to Otis?
Hi.
how's it going?
I'm doing an interview, honey, so you have to get moving. Okay. Sorry about that.
No, you're good. Listen, the name of the show, remember, is Interruptions. So no, I love catching things authentic. Trust me, I love catching authentic. Before I get to my next question, I just want to make this comment. The thing I love, you did something that we were taught, and I'm sure you were taught the same thing, playing as a kid. You came around second base, man. When you hit second, and you were coming around third, you ran it the way coaches have taught. All like you when it's like when you it's like a running back when they're trying to get to the outside. Once you plant your foot,
Yeah.
you're gone. And when you came around third, man, you hit. Now the good part was, unlike some people, you weren't out of control coming from third. I mean, third. You know how sometimes when you hit third, you widen it out too far, and then you're all in the grass. Now you got to try to get back. You turned that corner perfectly, man, and got there. And of course, the rest is history, man. And do you ever sometimes and look at that play and you say, "Ooh, God, I appreciate that one, boy. You gave me one. You gave me a blessing on that one."
Well, I've thought it a blessing ever since that time frame because literally I shouldn't have been out there at that point in time, but I really truly believe God had me there for a purpose, but I did take a lot of pride in my base running, Otis. I mean, I before my knee surgeries, I mean, I used to go first to third with the best of them because I knew how to run bases. And, I'd make sure, as I stated, I mean, I made sure that I got my secondary and I was putting that foot down right as the ball was going across the plate. So I can make that split second decision. Should I go back to
Right.
first base or second base? I mean, I took a lot of pride in that and it benefited me that night for sure.
Yeah, you ran it. You ran it perfectly. My next question: before you got to Atlanta, man, you were part of the Killer Bees,
Yeah.
and so what was that like playing in Pittsburgh, man, and being part of not just like here in Atlanta, you were part of the leadership, something that was needed, but in Pittsburgh, you were part of a batting uh era, from that cleanup on down to like, no, we need when Sid coming up, when Bonilla's coming up, when Bonds is coming up, and I think what was Van Dyke,
Van
uh
Slyke, Van
Van
Slyke.
Slyke, Van Slyke, yeah, it was like you guys, it's like that was the meat of the order. So what was that like?
Well, I mean, let me just say that when I got traded over from the Los Angeles Dodgers in
Hmm.
1985, I started with Pittsburgh in 1986. We lost our first year that I played 103 ball games the first year that I played in 1986. But again, they got to the place where they were working to fill the holes. And
Hmm.
so every year they were starting to fill holes, and they brought in Doug Drabeck. They brought, Barry Bonds came up, Bobby Bonilla came up. I mean, they brought Andy Van Slyke and Mike Cavalier over. Jay Bell came in, and our pitching staff started to form. And every year, 87, 88, 89, I mean, our team just got better and better and better. And as you said, I mean, Barry Bonds, probably the greatest player that I ever had a chance to witness play. Just a tremendous godly talent. But that outfield with Bonds and Andy Van Slyke, Bonilla when he was in right
Yeah,
field.
yeah.
I mean, it was just a special, not only defense but also the offense as well. And there were times that literally Barry put the team on his back, and he just said, "Here, guys, just get on my back and let me take you for a little bit." And it was a
Yeah.
special thing.
You play with Barry with the mustache. You play. I followed the sport. Yeah, Barry had the mustache then. Barry had the mustache.
He had a little beaner mustache. I mean, he didn't have a good mustache. He had a little beaner
Yeah.
mustache.
Then he had the long earring like Lawrence
Yeah,
Taylor. You know how they had the long
yep.
ear. I was like, man, listen, that era of baseball, man. The reason I loved it so much because it wasn't just about power hitting neither. You get a guy that
You're
could,
right.
if a guy could steal like a Ricky Henderson or someone
Yep.
that could still get on first, and it wouldn't be like, well, we're waiting on Sid to hit him over. Is Sid's gonna get good pitching because the pitcher is too transfixed on this guy on first base. He is so worried about this guy taking second, he's not gonna throw what he normally would throw Sid. So not only is Sid's gonna get a good pitch, but this guy's gonna take second. Now the pitcher's nervous, like, well, will he take third? Really, I miss those days, though that strategy like that, where now it's almost not every game, but most they're just waiting on somebody to hit them over. And I'm like,
Yeah, I mean, it's a different era of baseball for sure. I mean, the analytics in this game. I mean, it used to be the analytics were if you got the first run on the board, you had a much better chance to win the ball game. And so if Barry Bonds got on first base, Jay Bell was going to bunt him over, and he was
yeah,
going to get him over to second base. And then you had Andy Van Slyke and Bobby Bonilla, and a possibility myself to knock them in. And so that's the game that was played. I don't know how things have changed so dramatically from
I
that
don't
point to
either. I
now.
don't either.
And as you said, stealing bases was such a huge part of it that it's a totally different ball game today. I mean, to hit 220 today and strike out 250 times, but you hit 30 home runs, that's okay. If I would have done that, I mean, I would have been out of the game in a heartbeat.
Yeah, yeah. I was about to say that you hitting that. It's like, see, it's just slipping now.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this: what made you choose to be a Christian motivator?
Mm. Good question, Otis. Thank you. I
Oh, we're on
think
the same team, so I had to bring it up. We're on the same team.
and I appreciate that, Otis. I mean, I would just say this: it started first of all with my parents.
Okay.
I mean, I had a mom and dad, and actually aunts and uncles
Hmm.
that I grew up in a Christian home, and so I had a good foundation, a good root system to get my life started in the right direction. I knew about I heard about a Jesus that loved me all my life.
Yeah.
But even at that, I mean, it didn't really start until really didn't come to that place of putting my faith and trust in Him
Mm.
until 13. But I wish, as I tell people, I wish at that point in time I was as solid could be. But I had I was in a process and I had to keep moving forward.
Sure.
But I guess this is what I'd answer you. Other than my foundation was so perfect and so great for me,
Hmm.
Otis.
Hmm.
I mean, God has been so good. I mean, even outside of all the blessings He does give me in my life,
Right.
just the fact that Jesus Christ loved me enough to die on a cross for me,
Yeah,
to give
man.
me a chance to be in heaven with Him,
Yeah.
motivates me as an individual to make sure that I go out and I try to tell as many people as I can about how much Jesus Christ loves them. And so I guess with the play that happened in 1992,
Hmm.
He gave me a platform. I mean, and because of that, I mean, we just celebrated 30 years on October 14th. 30
Right.
years,
Wow.
and 30 years later after that play, I mean, I'm still getting calls to be able to go out and tell people about my love for Jesus Christ. I mean, and so I'm so thankful for that. But that's my motivation. I mean, that's why I'm supposed to be here. In my opinion, Otis, I mean, the Bible says three things: love the Lord your God with all your heart,
Uh,
soul, strength, and mind.
Yep.
Love your neighbor as yourself, and then go and make disciples of all nations. That's our commission. That's what we're supposed to be all about. And so, living for Jesus Christ, that's what I'm trying to do.
I appreciate that, and that's one of the other reasons why I wanted to bring you on, uh, because this platform that God has given me to speak to people such as yourself, it's amazing. I was telling someone, I said, what God is showing me through this platform is you don't know who knows me. So
Hmm.
don't assume from looking from afar who has a relationship with me and who doesn't have a relationship with me. And when I saw that, you put me in the mind like a Daryl Green or the late Reggie White.
Yeah.
I had an apostle on Apostle Vero, and I remember she told me that wonderful testimony. She said she was about to sleep with this guy that was on the Philadelphia Eagles team, but the guy had just got saved, right? He had just got saved. And so Reggie White calls the room. And the guy's on the phone. He says, "Hey, what you doing up there with that girl?" And he's trying to play it off like, "Oh no, we just chilling. We was just," and so he hung up the phone. And she said at that moment, God had convicted her. God had told her that you can't sleep with him because he's mine.
Hmm.
And she called her girlfriend that was in the next, hotel room, and they left. And she said, Otis, I went home for 40 minutes, didn't say nothing. Just God was just convicting me. And she said later on, as I was starting to get myself together, the next person that began to minister to me was Daryl Green.
Hmm.
And so to see athletes like yourself, a Daryl Green, a Reggie White, spread the gospel and do it in such a way, like not fanfare or anything like that. Like you said, you just doing what Jesus commissioned us to do, right?
Yeah.
And to see, and then you look and see where she is today.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, like, you never know where it comes from. So that's why I wanted to make sure that we spoke to that
Yeah.
that that motivation that you have for making sure that people know, Jesus is the best thing that's going. Always been.
And Otis, I mean, let me just, and I appreciate you giving me the opportunity, but let me just share for your audience as
Sure.
well, to let the audience know that
Okay.
Reggie White, Daryl Green, myself, we're not perfect.
Right.
I mean, none of us are perfect. As our pastor always says, we're a bunch of messed up individuals that has a savior in Jesus Christ that has forgiven us of our sins.
Yep.
I mean, and so we don't, it's not that we have everything together. It's just that we understand the grace and the love of Jesus Christ, and we've surrendered our hearts to him, and we're in a process in our lives to become more like him every day. I mean,
Yeah.
and so I don't want any of your audience to sit there and think, well, shoot, I did this and I did that. I
Nah.
mean, and God's never ever going to accept me. God's never going to receive me. And that's a bunch of malarkey. He died exactly for you. I mean, and anything that you've done, I mean, shoot, just understand, I'm not perfect. I mean, I've done stuff that I'm ashamed of.
Right.
But God on the cross, I mean, the grace that he showed and the love that he showed, he's forgiven you. And there's nothing that you've ever done that God won't forgive. And so I thank you for the opportunity, and for sharing that with us, Otis.
Oh yeah. I always tell people this. Listen, the when you've done things that, like you said, you and I or anybody else may not be proud of, right? I always tell people, look, he called a dude named Saul who
Mhm.
was killing Christians. I mean, like Bible says he had a zeal for it. Like he got off on killing
Yep.
anybody that looked like, talked like Jesus Christ. And God said, "Come here, I'm gonna use you. I'm gonna take that same zeal, but we're gonna flip it." So I knew, hey, if he can use him, he can use me. And my friend, and I say this before I move on, my friend says it best. My friend Lamar Smith, he says, it was never about you. You were only born because he had something for you to do.
Amen.
So it was never about you in the first place.
I know the plans I have for you. I mean, Christ has a plan for everybody that comes into this world.
Yeah. Let me ask you this here, and then just to get your thoughts on it. Do you believe, because you mentioned him earlier, do you believe that the writers the sports writers have gotten it wrong when it comes to Barry Bonds? And the reason I ask that question is because I say, whether person believe he took steroids, didn't take steroids, I always tell people, throw that out the door for a minute. Before that, when he was in Pittsburgh, before he even went to San Francisco, he was already considered a Hall of Famer. So
True. I mean, but you can also put the thing on Pete Rose too. And
yeah,
Pete Rose, did he be in the Hall of Fame? I mean, and to this day, I can't imagine that Pete Rose bet on his own team. I mean, if Pete Rose bet on his own team to lose, then I say he should never ever be in the Hall of
right,
Fame.
right. If he
I
bet
mean,
on the
but
lose, yeah,
I can't believe that he would have ever bet on his own team in order to lose, that he could have influenced that outcome. And as far as Barry is concerned, I mean, yes, as I told you, he was the best athlete, best player I ever played with. But at the same time, I
hmm
mean, I personally,
hmm
I personally don't give him the home run contest. I
I
mean,
get that. Yeah, I get that.
because I mean, I'm sitting there looking at a Brady Anderson that hit 42 home runs when he was on steroids, and after they caught him and and he did his thing,
hmm
he couldn't hit more than 12 in a season.
hmm
Barry Bonds, I mean, up until we had the steroids, I mean, he would hit 30 home runs, 35 home runs in a season. How many more years would he have had to play in order to catch up to
Hank,
Hank Aaron?
right.
I mean, could he have done it? I mean, and so, you know, I also say this, Otis,
hmm
to think of that one pitcher in there that might have been taking steroids, that was able to work out a little bit harder, I mean, he was able to recover quicker. That might have added another 2 miles an hour on his fastball.
Mm-hmm.
That now he got it past me when I was working my tail off to be the very best that I could be. I mean, there there is a justice to the game of baseball. There
Gotcha.
has to be justice to the game of baseball, and so for myself, even though Barry was going to be a Hall of Fame
Mm-hmm.
recipient,
Mm-hmm.
I think by doing what he did with the steroids, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
in a sense, to me, disqualified him, just like Mark McGwire, just like Rafael Palmeiro, just like Sammy Sosa. I mean, it disqualifies it because you just don't know what they could have done if they would have just worked out the same way that everybody else did.
Now I agree with you when it comes to the numbers. Like the numbers, like you said, that Hank has the number. I
Yep,
was just saying if he like the way I look at it a little bit, Sid, is like take when he was in Pittsburgh before he
yep.
went to San Francisco, and I said if he got hurt, well, he couldn't have played anymore. Is he a Hall of Famer? So I
Well,
said,
I don't know at that point in time. I mean, coming up, was he a great player? Absolutely. Did he have enough of the home runs and stuff at that point
I don't think
to
he had
real?
enough of the hold up, but I think with the home runs, the what you call it, the Golden Gloves. Because remember, once he got this, he
Yeah.
wasn't getting the Golden Gloves like he was when he played with you. He wasn't
Mhm.
getting those. It was just like you said about the power, the home
Yeah.
runs. So that's what I mean by that. It's like it seems to me outside of the home runs, he did more back then, pre quote unquote, steroid there. He did more. Once he got that, it was more just, home runs, like you said. It's just
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I guess I'm going to choose to disagree with you at this point,
no, no,
Otis. I mean,
no, no, no. I was just letting you know where I come from. One thing I don't do, Sid, is I don't debate people on their answer. And the reason being is because I asked you for an honest answer, right?
yeah.
And you gave it to me, right? So I always tell people why I can't stand when people bring you on and you give an answer and then they want to debate you on your answer. And it's like, well, what you ask them a question for? if you go to if you go to debate, why did you ask him? I,
No,
I was
I
I
mean,
was just giving you I was just giving you
I thank
context
you.
on how I
I
was
thank
looking
you
at it.
for your, yep. I
Yeah,
thank you for your side. I mean,
yeah,
and I'm sure a lot of people have the same opinion. I mean, and again, I really appreciate Barry Bonds. I mean, again, a great baseball player.
yeah.
But that's my opinion on
I get
him.
I
And
get where you're coming from. Yeah.
okay,
I get it. No, 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 no. Like I said, I was just letting you know. I always
yep,
try to give people the context. Like when I ask certain questions, the context why I'm asking that question. Because you've been doing interviews for years, and you know how sometimes people trying to lead you down a certain path. So I always
right,
try to give context of why I'm asking the question, so people will realize I don't have some type of hidden agenda or anything. So I
I
appreciate
got
your my final question for you is what I want to know is, do you believe baseball, your top, I would say your top rookies that are drafted, right? Do you think that baseball maybe should be a little bit open, maybe let them play in the spring game? And where I'm coming from with that question is, you notice how in basketball and football, right? They get drafted, they come right to the show, right? They go right up. So, and I know baseball has a minor league system,
you.
but
Hmm.
even if the kid is not ready, but he could play maybe in one or two or whatever spring and kind of see where the kid is. And then from there, they would know like, hey, he needs to go to double A, single A, or what have you. Let him kind of, because I'm looking at it, say it from a point of he's playing minor league, but you don't know if really can he play major league until he comes up to major league.
Yeah, this is what I would say to that, Otis. I
Okay.
mean, you look at Dansby Swanson for the
Mm-hmm.
Atlanta Braves shortstop.
Mm-hmm.
Even though he was number one pick for the Atlanta Braves and he went right to the big leagues,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it, Dansby Swanson, even though he played at Vanderbilt, which was a top Division I school,
Mm-hmm.
he was only going to face a pitcher here, a pitcher there that was going to be in the big league.
Okay.
He still wasn't going to be up against, you know, I share it this way. Every step that you take, Otis,
Mm-hmm.
you're the all-stars of the all-stars are they're going
I
up the
got
ladder.
you. I got you.
And so, for Dansby Swanson, I mean, it was difficult, even though, they put him in that spot to play shortstop.
Mm-hmm.
It was so difficult. It almost broke him. I mean, to go up there without being prepared for what was going to be taking place in the minor leagues.
Okay.
I mean, thankfully he put together a great season this year, but there was a point in time that Dansby, there was a good chance that he was going to be out of the game of baseball. And I think that it crippled him a little bit coming right out of college, even though it was Vanderbilt, and going right into Major League Baseball with now you have every pitcher is scrutinizing your holes. I mean, you got the videos, and so they know where he's where he can hit, what he can't hit.
Mm-hmm.
You got your shortstop now, instead of when he was hitting balls before, it might have been a hit.
Mm-hmm.
Now all of a sudden that shortstop's taking that ball away, just like he was going to take a lot of balls away. I mean, and so I think that everybody wants to think, even for myself.
Okay.
I used to think I'm ready for the game of the big league baseball.
Okay.
But at the same time, there is still a maturing that needs to take place, in my opinion.
Okay.
To get you to that place where you're going, every step is getting that all-star from the single way to double way to triple way, that pitcher is starting to get a little bit more refined. He's going to have a little better breaking ball, that slider, that changeup. I mean, and you have to learn to make the adjustments. And if you don't make, as we talked before, if there's a start made, you're not going to be in the big leagues. And so I think that there's a what do you want to call it? A process that needs to take place in order for them to kind of figure out, am I going to be able to play? I mean, there's only so many players, there's only so many, good grief, like James. There's only so many guys that come out of high school and play professional basketball.
Right.
I mean, they still all have to go through that. College game is a little bit different, but I mean, that they can go right into the pros after that. But there's not too many players that can come out of high school and go straight into NBA basketball like Lamont James did. And the same thing in baseball. I think that there's a refining process. You have to go to the minor leagues just to be able to see whether he can adjust.
Okay. Yeah. I wasn't trying to skip the minor league. That's why I said the spring game, maybe to see, like you said, if a kid, let's say you draft first 2-3 rounds, and you just want to see what this kid can do.
They generally give them some opportunities.
Okay.
I mean, it's not that they're not gonna put them out there, but they generally give them some opportunities here and there just to get some at bats up there to let them see what
it feel like. Okay. And then, like you say, you kind of see from there and say, okay, you need to spend some time, like you said, maturing and play in this particular league. And then as they're watching you there, and then, like you say, it's still when they call you up, it's not a gimme that you're going to stay unless you produce once you're up there,
Absolutely. I mean, there are so many even first round draft choices, Otis, that they get up to a place and they plateau. I mean, and they never start going up again. And so I'm getting just 1 second. But yeah, it's interruptions, babe.
I told you.
So yeah, I mean, there's everybody has to learn to adjust, and if you can't adjust, you don't play the game of baseball.
Okay. Well, I thank you for giving us your time. I thank you for blessing us with your presence and coming on the show. We'll love to have you back again at a later date. Normally, when I do that, I usually pair you up with somebody else, and just make it fun, and
Hey, I love having fun too, Otis.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. So I thank you once again and continue much blessings and success with your life and everything that you're doing. Keep motivating people, keep spreading the word of Jesus Christ out there. And by all means, please be safe.
Thanks, brother. Hey, it's great knowing you're a brother in Christ, my friend. You take care of yourself, Otis.
No problem. Love you, man. Peace.
Bye bye, buddy.